It was an ordinary afternoon. The sun was warm but not too hot and the streets were quiet. She was driving home after visiting her mother, enjoying the calm and thinking about the week ahead. The car's engine hummed softly and she felt relaxed. She had no idea that this peaceful moment was about to change. As she drove, she noticed a pair of police cars following her. At first she thought it was a coincidence, but when the first car flicked its lights on and signaled her to pull over, she realized it was a traffic stop. She kept her hands visible on the steering wheel and calmly slowed down. The neighborhood was quiet, and a few neighbors were watching from their porches. The two officers approached her car. They were not friendly. Their voices were sharp, and their tone suggested they were already assuming she had done something wrong. They demanded her identification and registration. She handed over her documents slowly, making sure everything was visible and within reach. She spoke politely but firmly, answering questions clearly. The officers didn't seem satisfied. They asked where she was coming from and where she was going. She answered truthfully, explaining she had just visited her mother. One officer frowned, not convinced. He started asking more questions, his tone growing more aggressive. She remained calm, not raising her voice, but she noticed that their questions were becoming repetitive and hostile. People walking their dogs and some neighbors started noticing the scene. Some began filming with their phones. She kept her voice steady and polite, even as the officers' behavior became more unreasonable. She realized they were searching for a reason to escalate the situation. Despite this, she stayed in control of her emotions, taking deep breaths and speaking slowly. One of the officers suddenly reached for the door handle, indicating he wanted her to step out of the car. She hesitated, asking if there was a specific reason for this. The officer didn't answer directly. Instead, he repeated that he needed to check her car. She explained that she had the right to remain in her vehicle unless there was probable cause. Her voice was calm but confident. This seemed to confuse him for a moment. The second officer began walking around the car, shining a flashlight inside, looking for something. She asked him again politely why he was searching without probable cause. His expression hardened and he ignored her question. The tension was growing, but she stayed composed. She knew that losing her cool could make the situation worse. While all this was happening, she quietly reached into her purse. Her fingers touched the leather folder she always carried. Inside was her federal badge. She didn't pull it out immediately. She wanted to give the officers a chance to realize the situation. Before showing her credentials, she continued speaking calmly, trying to maintain a polite tone, explaining her rights and asking for theirs. The first officer leaned closer, speaking louder, trying to intimidate her. He accused her of being uncooperative. She smiled slightly, not because she was happy, but because she knew she had the upper hand. She kept her hands where they could see them and spoke in a tone that was firm but not angry. Suddenly, she reached into her bag and held up her badge. The officer's expressions changed instantly. Their confident, aggressive posture faltered. She stated her name, rank, and field office, reciting the federal code that gave her authority. The shift in the air was immediate. The officer who had tried to intimidate her took a step back, unsure what to do next. She explained calmly that interfering with a federal agent could have serious consequences. She wasn't yelling or threatening. She was simply stating facts. Her voice carried authority, but it was measured and controlled. The surrounding neighbors continued filming, capturing the moment. The officers were clearly nervous now, unsure how to proceed. She then asked the officers for their badge numbers and names, noting them down mentally. She explained that she would have to report the incident and that it would be thoroughly documented. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with their earlier aggression. The bystanders could see the difference and whispered among themselves, impressed by her composure. One officer attempted to speak, but she stopped him politely, saying she wanted to remain calm and that she expected the same from them. Her tone was so composed that it left no room for argument. She wasn't being confrontational. She was being professional and factual. Her presence alone was changing the dynamics of the encounter. Minutes passed, which felt like hours. She kept her cool, knowing that any sudden movement could escalate things. Her posture, calm and firm, projected confidence and authority. The officers seemed unsure how to act, caught between their initial aggression and the reality of her identity. She explained the civil rights laws they were potentially violating, and how any further misconduct would be recorded and reported. Her words were precise and to the point. There was no anger, only clarity and authority. The officer's attitude softened slightly, realizing that this was no ordinary citizen they were dealing with. She asked them if they understood the seriousness of interfering with a federal agent. Her calm questioning forced them to reflect on their behavior. One officer mumbled something, but it wasn't convincing. She stayed silent for a few seconds, letting the gravity of the situation sink in. Her silence was as powerful as her words. The neighborhood remained quiet, with only the sound of car engines and distant birds. The bystanders continued filming, clearly sensing something important was happening. She maintained eye contact with the officers, steady and unwavering. She didn't need to raise her voice or show aggression. Her confidence and authority were enough. Eventually, she requested that they allow her to continue her journey without further harassment. She reminded them politely that she had done nothing wrong and that any further action could be considered illegal. Her words were simple but firm. There was no yelling, no confrontation, just clear and undeniable facts. The officers finally stepped back, looking uncertain and embarrassed. She kept her composure and didn't gloat. She knew that maintaining professionalism was more important than proving a point in anger. The moment was tense, but she handled it with remarkable calm and clarity. She waited until they returned her documents, keeping her hands in view the entire time. She thanked them politely, although her tone suggested she was fully aware of their misconduct. Once they stepped back, she slowly merged back into traffic, keeping an eye on them in her rearview mirror. She drove carefully, ensuring the situation didn't escalate further. As she continued her journey, she reflected on what had just happened. She remained calm, taking deep breaths and processing the encounter. She knew that this incident would need to be reported and documented, but she also felt proud of how she handled herself. Her patience, professionalism, and calmness had prevented a potentially dangerous situation from escalating. By the time she reached home, she had already drafted a plan for reporting the incident. She knew the importance of recording everything clearly and factually. She also realized the impact this could have on the officer's behavior in the future and on the broader community that had witnessed her calm strength. She felt a sense of responsibility not just for herself, but for anyone who might face similar situations. She parked the car, took a deep breath, and prepared to enter her house. Her mother was waiting inside, unaware of the full extent of what had just happened. She knew she would explain carefully, emphasizing how she had remained calm and professional under pressure. The day had started quietly, but it ended with an extraordinary display of courage, restraint, and authority. She had turned a potentially dangerous situation into a moment of strength, setting an example for anyone who might face injustice. The video recordings from bystanders had already started spreading online, though she hadn't even checked them yet. She knew that her actions would speak louder than any words could, and that her calm response was more powerful than aggression ever could be. She walked into the house ready to handle the aftermath, but also proud of how she had stayed composed, professional, and dignified in a moment that could have easily gone wrong. After the tense traffic stop, she took a few deep breaths and continued driving. Her mind replayed the events over and over, analyzing every detail. She knew she had handled the situation well, but she also understood that there would be consequences. It was not enough that the officers had backed down in the moment. She had to make sure the proper authorities knew what had happened. She decided to pull into a quiet parking lot. She parked the car and sat for a moment, collecting herself. The afternoon sun warmed the dashboard, and she could hear distant traffic hum in the background. Her calm exterior hid a storm of thoughts as she prepared to make the next move. Opening her phone, she dialed the number of her FBI field office. She identified herself clearly and explained the situation in a calm, factual manner. She did not embellish details or express anger. She simply described what had happened step by step. The person on the other end listened carefully, taking notes and asking clarifying questions. She answered each one with precision, her voice steady and professional. While on the call, she recounted the behavior of the officers, how they had assumed wrongdoing based on nothing more than her presence and the color of her skin, how they had tried to intimidate her, and how close the situation had come to becoming dangerous. She emphasized her calm response and the measures she took to protect herself and document the incident. After ending the call, She sat quietly for a moment. She thought about the bystanders who had recorded the encounter. She knew that their footage could be important. It was evidence that showed the officer's behavior objectively without bias. She also knew that it could serve as a warning to the department and the community that improper behavior would not be tolerated. As she started driving again, she reflected on the power of calmness. Many people might think that shouting or fighting back is the only way to assert themselves, but she knew from experience that composure could be more powerful. By staying in control, she had prevented escalation, protected herself, and maintained authority. Her mind shifted to the officers themselves. She wondered what would happen to them. Would they be disciplined? Would they learn anything from this? She knew that change often came slowly, but she hoped that this incident would leave a lasting impression on them, just as it had left one on her. She believed that accountability was essential for justice, not revenge. As she drove home, she considered the wider implications. How many people face similar situations every day, without the resources or knowledge to protect themselves? She thought about the countless individuals who had no choice but to obey and fear, hoping not to be harmed. Her position allowed her to act differently, but she carried a responsibility to those who could not. Reaching her neighborhood, she noticed some neighbors still standing outside whispering among themselves. She waved politely but didn't stop to speak. She could see in their eyes a mixture of admiration and disbelief. They had witnessed someone handle a tense and potentially dangerous situation with poise and authority. The ripple effect of such an encounter could be significant, she thought, in terms of community awareness and understanding. Arriving at her home, she parked and stepped out of the car. She locked the doors behind her, a small but significant gesture of security. Inside, the familiar surroundings of her house offered comfort, but her mind remained alert. She knew that even at home, the situation was not entirely over. She would need to follow up, ensure reports were filed, and that the incident was recorded accurately for both the FBI and local authorities. She made a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table, thinking strategically. She considered how to present the incident in a report that would be factual, concise, and persuasive. She wrote notes in her notebook, carefully documenting every interaction, every question asked by the officers, and every response she had given. She also noted the reactions of bystanders, understanding that their testimonies could support her account. Later, she reached out to a colleague at the FBI, someone she trusted to give her advice on next steps. She described the incident calmly, seeking guidance on procedure. The colleague reminded her to focus on facts, maintain objectivity, and avoid any personal bias. She nodded, taking mental notes, knowing that professionalism would be key in every report she submitted. As the day wore on, she reflected on her own feelings. There was frustration, of course, at the behavior of the officers, but it was tempered by a sense of purpose. She had turned a potentially harmful encounter into an opportunity to demonstrate professionalism and authority. She realized that her calm response had not only protected her, but it had also sent a message to those who might witness such behavior in the future. In the evening, she reviewed the video recordings that had been uploaded online. She watched the interactions again, seeing her composure and control reflected back at her. She saw the officer's initial aggression, followed by hesitation and uncertainty when they realized her status. She noticed how the bystanders' presence influenced the encounter, a reminder that public observation can be a powerful check on misconduct. She considered the next steps carefully. She planned to submit her formal report to the FBI, including her account and the available video evidence. She also intended to monitor the local police department's response, ensuring that appropriate disciplinary measures were taken. Her focus remained on accountability, fairness, and maintaining the rule of law. Despite the tension and stress of the day, she found moments of quiet satisfaction. She had acted decisively and appropriately. She had maintained her professionalism in a situation where many might have lost control. She had demonstrated courage not through confrontation but through measured, informed action. Her approach reinforced her belief that calm authority could achieve more than anger or aggression. She spent the rest of the evening preparing for any follow-up interactions. She reviewed the relevant legal codes, civil rights statutes, and FBI protocols. She wanted to ensure that if questioned or asked to testify, she could do so confidently and accurately. Her preparation was thorough, methodical, and deliberate. reflecting the mindset that had helped her navigate the initial encounter so successfully. Throughout the night, she remained aware that her role as a federal agent came with responsibilities beyond her personal safety. She thought about the message her actions sent to the community, the officers, and others who might face similar challenges. She realized that professionalism, clarity, and courage were tools that could influence outcomes far beyond a single moment. As she finally settled down for the night, she felt a sense of calm accomplishment. The day had been unexpected, tense, and challenging, yet she had navigated it with poise. She had faced aggression without aggression, uncertainty without panic, and injustice without compromise. Her response had been not only a personal triumph, but also a demonstration of the principles she had dedicated her life to upholding. She knew that the incident was only the beginning of a process. Reports would be written, investigations conducted, and consequences possibly enforced. Yet she also knew that she had already made a significant impact simply by remaining composed and asserting her authority calmly and firmly. She had shown that knowledge, preparation, and self-control were more powerful than intimidation or prejudice. The quiet of the night allowed her to reflect fully on what had occurred. She appreciated the support of the bystanders who had captured the event, the guidance of her colleagues, and the clarity of her own actions. She understood the importance of remaining vigilant, aware, and professional in every situation. Her role as an agent was not just a job, but a responsibility to justice, fairness, and the people she served. With that understanding, she finally allowed herself to rest, knowing that she had handled a dangerous and challenging situation in a way that was remarkable in its calm authority. Her actions would not only protect her, but also serve as a model of how to respond to intimidation, prejudice, and misuse of power with dignity, professionalism, and courage. The next morning, she woke up early, the events of the previous day still vivid in her mind. She knew that this was not just a personal incident anymore. It had become something bigger. The improper behavior of the officers and her calm handling of the situation meant that the next steps were crucial. She prepared herself mentally for what was coming. She dressed professionally, not in her usual field uniform, but in smart, casual attire. Even though she was technically off duty, her presence carried authority. She grabbed her folder, double-checked her badge and identification, and left the house with a sense of purpose. The sun was just rising, and the streets were quieter than usual, a calm contrast to the tension she expected to face. Driving to the local police station was a careful and deliberate act. She wanted to ensure that everything was done transparently, following procedure and law. When she arrived, she was greeted with a mixture of curiosity and tension. The officers on duty recognized her and immediately knew that she was not there for a routine matter. She asked to speak to the chief and stated clearly that she was there to report an incident from the day before. Her tone was calm, firm, and professional. She described the events precisely, step by step, leaving no room for misunderstanding. The officers listened, some with unease, some with skepticism. She maintained composure, not reacting to facial expressions or murmurs. She presented her badge and credentials again, ensuring that there was no doubt about her identity and authority. Her presence alone seemed to shift the room's energy. The officers had no reason to doubt her, yet there was an unspoken tension in the air. She remained polite and professional, letting the facts speak louder than words. After explaining what happened, she requested that the officers involved in the traffic stop be present for a statement. She wanted their account documented and compared with the video evidence she had noted and collected. She emphasized that transparency and accountability were crucial, not confrontation. Her calm insistence left the staff with no choice but to comply. The officers who had stopped her the previous day entered the room, visibly uncomfortable. They tried to maintain composure, but it was clear they were anxious. She did not gloat or show anger. Instead, she asked them clear questions, requesting facts about their actions and decisions. Each answer was documented carefully, while she maintained eye contact, calm and unshaken. She presented the video evidence she had gathered from bystanders, showing the interactions from multiple angles. The footage spoke for itself, highlighting the officers' aggression and their hesitation once her identity was revealed. She remained silent as the video played, allowing it to demonstrate the truth more powerfully than any words could. Throughout the process, she made careful notes. She documented the sequence of events, the officers' responses, and the reactions of bystanders. Every detail was important, from the tone of voice to the body language. She knew that in situations like this, even small details could make a difference in accountability and justice. Once the initial interviews were completed, she requested that the officers provide written statements. She made sure that they understood the seriousness of the situation and the legal implications of false or misleading information. Her tone remained calm but firm, professional but human, focusing on facts rather than emotions. The chief entered the room, a calm but serious presence. He acknowledged her report and confirmed that an internal investigation would be launched. She thanked him politely and emphasized her expectation that the investigation be fair, thorough, and transparent. Her voice carried authority without aggression, setting a tone that left no room for delay or negligence. After the meeting, she stepped outside to collect her thoughts. The morning air was fresh and she took deep breaths. She reflected on how her calm response and adherence to procedure had transformed a potentially dangerous encounter into a moment of influence and authority. She knew that the officer's behavior would now be scrutinized, and that accountability would follow. She considered the broader impact. By handling the situation calmly and professionally, she had not only protected herself but also sent a message to the community about the importance of lawful and respectful conduct. She thought about those who might watch the recordings or hear the story, realizing that her actions could inspire others to handle challenges with composure and integrity. Later, she met with colleagues from her field office to brief them on the incident. They reviewed the video, discussed procedures, and analyzed the interactions. Her colleagues were impressed by her discipline and strategic approach. They acknowledged that her actions had prevented escalation, documented misconduct, and set a standard for professional conduct under pressure. She also reached out to a few trusted community leaders, explaining the situation factually and calmly. She wanted to ensure that there was an understanding of the events from multiple perspectives and that the community knew the importance of remaining calm and informed when facing authority figures. Her focus was on education, awareness, and measured action rather than sensationalism. Throughout the day, she received messages from people who had seen the video online. Many expressed admiration for her calmness and professionalism, noting how rare it was to see someone handle such a tense situation with dignity. She appreciated their support, but remained focused on the procedural and legal aspects, knowing that true change required structured action, not just public praise. In the evening, she returned home and reviewed her notes again. She wrote a formal report for the FBI, detailing the events, the officers' actions, the video evidence, and her own responses. She included recommendations for follow-up, emphasizing the importance of accountability and transparency. Her writing was precise, clear, and factual, avoiding any emotional embellishment. Her professionalism ensured that her report would carry weight and authority. She reflected on the importance of her own calmness. It had prevented confrontation, protected her safety, and ensured that the events were accurately documented. She understood that in moments of tension, how a person responds can determine the outcome. Her approach had transformed a potential conflict into a demonstration of authority and integrity. She also thought about the officers who had tried to intimidate her. She felt no personal anger, only concern that such behavior was unchecked in the community. Her goal was not revenge but accountability. She hoped that the process would teach lessons, promote better conduct, and prevent similar incidents in the future. The day ended with her feeling a sense of accomplishment. She had faced aggression, intimidation, and bias with calmness, clarity, and authority. She had documented the truth, involved the appropriate authorities, and ensured that accountability was pursued. Her actions had not only protected herself, but had also set an example for others on how to handle difficult and unjust situations with dignity and professionalism. As she prepared for bed, she reflected on the power of knowledge, preparation, and composure. She knew that the challenges were far from over. But she also knew that by handling this situation correctly, she had made a difference. She had turned a moment of potential danger into an opportunity for justice, learning, and community awareness. Her calm authority had changed the narrative, and she felt a quiet sense of pride in the way she had navigated the events of the day. The following day, news of the incident had started spreading quietly through local circles. She knew it would soon become more widely known. but she stayed focused on her responsibilities. She planned to continue her work while keeping an eye on how the situation unfolded. She knew that careful observation and measured responses were crucial. She began the day by reviewing her notes from the previous encounters. She wanted to ensure that every detail was accounted for, that nothing was overlooked. She also prepared for potential follow-up calls from the FBI or other authorities, anticipating questions and clarifying points that might require additional explanation. Her preparation was meticulous, reflecting her understanding of the importance of thoroughness in such matters. Around mid-morning, she received a call from the Internal Affairs Office of the local police department. They wanted to schedule a meeting to discuss the incident. She agreed, requesting that all involved officers be present and that the meeting be properly documented. Her tone was calm and professional, emphasizing the importance of transparency and fairness. When she arrived at the meeting, she noticed the tension in the room. The officers who had attempted to detain her the day before appeared uneasy. She did not react to their expressions. Instead, she focused on the facts and the purpose of the meeting. Her presence projected authority and calmness, setting the tone for the discussion. She began by outlining the sequence of events, clearly and calmly, while the internal affairs investigators took notes. She presented her evidence, including video recordings from bystanders. The footage clearly showed the officers' initial aggression and their hesitation once her federal identity was revealed. She allowed the evidence to speak for itself, speaking only to clarify points and answer questions. The officers were asked to provide their account. She listened quietly, taking notes and observing their reactions. Some explanations were vague, some defensive, and some contradictory. She remained composed, avoiding any personal judgment or emotional response. Her goal was to ensure that the facts were documented accurately and that accountability could be pursued. As the meeting progressed, she emphasized the importance of proper conduct and respect for civil rights. She explained how their actions had been perceived and the legal implications of interfering with a federal agent. Her tone was firm but not confrontational, professional but human. She spoke with authority without anger, clarity without harshness. After the officers' statements, the investigators asked her about her actions. She calmly described her approach, highlighting the steps she took to remain safe, professional, and composed. She explained why she had maintained her calm demeanor and how it had helped de-escalate a potentially dangerous situation. Her explanation was factual and clear, demonstrating both expertise and emotional intelligence. The internal affairs investigators nodded, clearly impressed by her handling of the situation. She did not seek praise, but her composure and clarity naturally commanded respect. The meeting continued with detailed discussions about procedure, accountability, and follow-up actions. She contributed thoughtfully, always keeping the focus on facts, fairness, and the importance of lawful conduct. After the meeting, she stepped outside to gather her thoughts. The sun was warm and a gentle breeze helped her relax. She reflected on how the situation had evolved from a tense traffic stop to a fully documented investigation. She realized the significance of remaining calm and professional, not only for herself but also for the broader community. Throughout the day, she received calls from colleagues and community members who had seen the video. Many expressed support and admiration, recognizing her calm authority in a tense situation. She appreciated their feedback but remained focused on the procedural aspects. Her priority was accountability, not publicity. Later, she returned to her office and reviewed the evidence once more. She made additional notes, ensuring that her report was thorough and precise. She also drafted recommendations for further action, emphasizing training, awareness, and accountability for the officers involved. Her approach was strategic and methodical, designed to ensure that justice was pursued effectively. In the evening, she reflected on the lessons of the day. She understood the power of calm authority, the importance of preparation, and the impact of professionalism in tense situations. She also recognized the broader implications for the community, the police department, and individuals who might face similar challenges in the future. Her actions had set an example, demonstrating that knowledge, composure, and integrity were more powerful than aggression or intimidation. She spent some time reaching out to trusted colleagues, discussing the incident and sharing insights on handling difficult encounters. Her focus was on learning and improvement, not blame or conflict. She emphasized the importance of remaining calm, documenting facts and following procedure. Her guidance was practical, grounded in experience, and focused on promoting fairness and accountability. The next day, she monitored the situation as it developed publicly. News reports had begun to surface describing the incident factually and highlighting the viral video. She noted the reactions, ensuring that misinformation did not spread. She prepared statements and clarifications, if needed, to maintain accuracy and integrity. Her approach was proactive and measured, focused on ensuring that the truth was understood. Throughout the week, she continued to document every detail meticulously. She reviewed reports, spoke with colleagues, and followed up with internal affairs. She remained patient, knowing that investigations take time and that fairness requires careful attention to procedure. She balanced her professional responsibilities with awareness of the public perception, maintaining focus on accuracy and integrity. Her actions began to have a ripple effect. The officers involved were now under scrutiny, and their department was aware that accountability was being enforced. She observed how professional, calm action could influence outcomes far beyond the immediate situation. Her approach set a standard, demonstrating that measured, thoughtful responses could achieve more than confrontation or anger. As the days went on, she received acknowledgement from higher authorities for her professionalism and effective handling of the situation. She did not seek recognition, but she understood that her actions were being noticed. She continued to focus on the process, ensuring that justice was pursued and that the proper procedures were followed. She also reflected on the personal impact. The incident had been stressful, but it had reinforced her confidence in her ability to handle difficult situations. She recognized the value of preparation, calmness, and clarity, and she understood how these qualities could inspire others. Her experience became a lesson in leadership, resilience, and integrity. Throughout this period, she maintained her daily routine, balancing work and personal life while remaining engaged with the unfolding investigation. She found strength in her professionalism, her careful attention to detail, and her commitment to justice. She knew that her actions were not just about her own experience, but about setting an example for others and promoting fairness and accountability. By the end of the week, the officers involved were formally notified of the investigation and its potential consequences. She had played a crucial role in ensuring that the situation was handled properly and that accountability would be pursued. Her calm authority, careful documentation, and professional demeanor had transformed a tense encounter into a meaningful example of justice and integrity. She reflected on the journey from the initial traffic stop to the formal investigation. Each step had required patience, composure, and strategic thinking. She recognized the importance of remaining calm, clear, and professional in the face of aggression and bias. Her approach had made a significant difference, demonstrating that knowledge, preparation, and integrity could overcome intimidation and injustice. As the weekend approached, she allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She appreciated the support of colleagues, the guidance from authorities, and the impact of her own actions. She understood that the work was not finished, but she also recognized the power of measured, professional responses. Her calm authority had not only protected her, but had also contributed to a larger message of accountability, fairness, and justice.